Last night, I finished the highly anticipated Season 2 of the popular Netflix series, The Witcher. And I have a few thoughts, so let's break it down. Welcome to the newest episode of SDW.
Super Dario World!
Alright, so heads up, this one is not live. It is not live. I'm pre-recording this one because, today is Christmas Eve. I mean, you're watching this today. I'm recording this on Thursday. And, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to record something tomorrow. Things get crazy during the holiday. So I figured, let's get this out of the way. But usually, you can join me live on YouTube and on Twitch at Super Dario World Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I usually live stream those days at 10 a.m. So if you want to be a part of the chat, send me questions, suggestions, and stuff like that. It's the easiest way for you to contact me because it's live and I can answer you right then and there. Like, subscribe. I really appreciate that. Follow on Instagram at Super Dario World and at DarioSDW. You can also send me stuff there. It's just, it takes me longer to answer because sometimes I forget or get bombarded with stuff. And so I don't usually answer as quickly. But there you go. Easy ways for you to contact me. And before we get into this show, I remembered I have an open for this. I did an audio open, so it's not a visual thing, but it's something. It's better than nothing. Hopefully you enjoy it. The open was for The Good, the Bad, and the Witcher. I guess I could do that again, but we'll see. Either way, here you go. It's the opening. Let's talk about The Witcher.
Evil is evil. Lesser, greater, middling. It's all the same.
All right, so I want to use the song again because I made that like 2 years ago. I remember I did it for the first one. Like I said, I was doing for the breakdown, The Good, the Bad, and the Witcher, and I was like, you know what? Why shouldn't I use it again? I think I did a pretty good job there. Anyway, doesn't matter. So we're going to be talking about Season 2 of Netflix's The Witcher. And, just to get this out of the way, Season 2 is not as good as Season 1. Like, not even close. And I guess I could go into the reasons why it was not as good. And you know what? I will get into those reasons. But first off, let's just rehash where Season 1 ended. So Season 1 ended with Geralt and Ciri being united for the first time. So if you guys remember, Season 1, it was a little confusing for a lot of people because it actually takes place in 3 different time periods. So you see the story of Yennefer. These are the 3 main characters, by the way: Yennefer, Geralt, and Ciri. So Yennefer's story you get to see really far back in the past. Geralt's story is kind of in the middle, and Ciri's story is in the present. And so slowly you get to see all the stories catching up to each other. So Yennefer's story, from being the one that's furthest back, she catches up in the timeline with Geralt, and that's when they interact. And then Geralt's story catches up with Ciri's story, and that's kind of where the series ends. So basically, let's see, long story short, Ciri is a princess, and Geralt accidentally won her in not a bet, but basically like payment. There's something called like the law of surprise, something like that. And basically somebody who you when you ask them to pay you with the law of surprises, they have to pay you with something that they own that they didn't know of, that they didn't know that they had. So let's say, for example, it could be like a Christmas present, because let's say somebody got you for Christmas a nice sweater, and you didn't know you owned the sweater, but it's yours. You just don't know that you have it. And so when you get home and you open it up, it's like, oh my God, I have this sweater. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, law of surprise says that I have to pay you with this because it's something that I didn't know that I had, but I did have. You know what I'm saying? In Ciri's case, the guy who Geralt claims the law of surprise with, it turns out that his wife or girlfriend at the time is pregnant with Ciri. So the law of surprise claimed that Ciri should go to Geralt. But Geralt avoided that for a really long time. Anyway, the point is, but basically to save her from, a Witcher. The point is, the series ends with Ciri's kingdom being destroyed, her grandmother killed, pretty much everybody who she knows being killed, and her running away and meeting up with Geralt. Geralt finding her, like destiny bringing them together. The story of Yennefer, on the other hand, in the battle, there was kind of like a war between wizards, in a way. The wizards of the side of the Nilfgaardians and the wizards on the side of the rest of the continent. And so Yennefer kind of sacrifices, she uses forbidden magic, which is fire magic, instead of chaos magic, in order to turn the tide of the battle, and everybody thinks she's dead. So that's kind of how the three main characters begin. Now, the story this season for the main characters, let's begin with Geralt, because he's the main character of this story. Geralt, basically, this whole season is about Ciri. It's about training Ciri, protecting Ciri, following Ciri along, and making sure that she's safe. Basically, investigating one or two monsters along the way. Personally, I do not like his armor as much as the one from season 1, but whatever. You know, the other armor kind of got messed up. And they go to Kaer Morhen. I think that's how you say it. He brings Ciri to Kaer Morhen, where the rest of the living Witchers are still alive, for her to be trained and protected. And this is where basically Witchers go during winter, you know, to heal up, to gather resources, to fix up their armor, stuff like that. So he brings Ciri to Kaer Morhen, where he's with his former mentor Vesemir, and they start, you know, training her, in spite of Geralt at first not being sure that he actually wants to do this. Their story is, well, basically, like I said, as I told you, Geralt's story and Ciri's story is linked. There's a big mystery following Ciri, and that's that she has an extreme amount of power that nobody really understands why or where it came from. During the season, you discover a few bits and pieces of why, and you discover why she destroyed a massive structure called a monolith that everybody thought to be indestructible, and she did it with what appeared to be either magic powers or like psychic powers. And so they investigate that. Basically, it's pretty simple. That's the story, just following around Ciri. And honestly, this is kind of an okay storyline. There's a big issue with season 2. Season 1 is kind of the story of there's a lot of different stories, but with Geralt, you get to see kind of like a monster of the week type of an adventure, right? It's slow, and every episode is a different monster. It's leading somewhere, but it's interesting. And the thing about following a Witcher hunting monsters around, but first off, monsters are fun. Monster hunters are fun. Training is fun. But this season, you don't really get to see that much. You don't get to see that many monsters. I think the only episode that actually has kind of like a monster of the week, that's pretty clear, is the first episode, and it's fantastic. Episode 1 is probably the best episode of the season. Anyway, going back to what I was saying, Witchers, they have kind of rules as far as their powers go. It's really weird. So the show has its feet on the ground when it comes to Witchers. It's pretty clear what they are. It's pretty clear what they can do. They're like, basically, they have enhanced senses, kind of like, let's say, Wolverine. Like, they can smell, hear, but have better eyesight. They've been mutated in order to be like enhanced humans. They're stronger, faster, stuff like that. Not to an extreme degree, but enough. Second, they can use a limited amount of magic powers, and it's pretty clear what those powers are. In fact, if you watch if you play the video games, you know what the powers are. It's like, I don't remember the names for everyone, but it's like fire, a block, calming animals, kind of like influencing minds. So it's limited, and it's very practical uses of magic. But again, the rules are set pretty clearly for Witchers, what they can do and all that stuff. On the other hand, you have the other storyline, which is the story of the wizards, let's say, the Brotherhood and all that stuff, who are wizards and witches and stuff like that, and their powers are kind of like bullshit. It's like, oh yeah, lol, chaos. We can't do that. Oh wait, lol, yes we can, because chaos. And that's kind of bullshit. And to me, that's the annoying storyline, because there are no rules. You can just do whatever because lol, chaos, haha. And it makes it less fun. So the part of the story in season 1 that worked the best for me was, again, because you're following Geralt. Geralt's the best character by far. That's who you want to follow along. That's the character in the video. That's the main character in the video games. That's who you care about. Ciri also, because her story was, again, her feet were kind of in the ground. Everything that has to do with the wizards, to me, seems kind of bullshit and seems kind of boring, to be honest. And in this season, there's a lot of it. There's a lot. They focused a lot on all the other secondary characters and all their political bullshit. And, you know, it's this kings and queens and drama and grand schemes. And you're like, can we just go back to hunting monsters? Like, can we just go back to, you know, hanging out with the main character, him training the next Witcher, and her becoming a badass as well? Can we kind of just do that? because that's what we care about. Anyway, in this season, they introduced another storyline, and this would be the storyline of like the elves, in which the elves have an interesting story because they've kind of been screwed over in this continent. They were close to extinction, and you remember we actually met the king of the elves in season 1. I forget his name. It's this guy right here. It's the episode where they capture Geralt. Let me see if I can find the actor's name here, because listen, everybody here has a really weird name, and it's very difficult to follow along. Where are you? Philivander. There you go. So Philivander, and you get the story of his wife, basically Francesca. And if you know if you play the video game, you know who Francesca is. And so very powerful beings, but they're basically refugees, and they're trying to find a new home, basically. So there's four main storylines here. The story of Geralt and Ciri, the story of Yennefer, which is again Yennefer, like this girl who basically, Yennefer, turns out she's alive. She got captured, and for some reason she can't use her powers anymore. She can't access chaos, and it's probably because she used the forbidden fire magic. Although something really weird happens during the season where they introduce another guy, another fire wizard. They call him the firefucker, and this guy uses fire magic without any issue. So you're like, then why is it that Yennefer can't do it? This guy says like, oh yeah, some wizards they can't control it, blah blah blah. But it's like, well, shouldn't Yennefer be able to use it a little bit and kind of like heal herself and eventually like recover? I don't know. It's really weird. But basically, Yennefer, no powers. Geralt and Ciri, they're training, and for some reason everybody and their mother's after them, and that's kind of the mystery of this particular season. And it's all just, honestly, it's a setup. It's a setup season, because not a lot of fun things happen, and the villain is kind of stupid. So here's what happens. Yennefer and the elves and another villain called, let's see, what's her name? I forget her name. Fringilla. There you go. Fringilla and Yennefer get captured by the elves, and for some reason they end up uncovering a tomb. They're guided by a vision into a tomb, or like a portal to something else, and they go to a magical hut in the middle of the woods where they encounter something, and it's not clear what it was, and it gives them a vision of how they can get their heart's desires and gives them a plan, and they move on. Everybody goes in their own direction, basically, except Fringilla and Francesca, who go to the same direction. Basically, that ends up being the big bad of the series, but again, it's really clear, not really set up that much. I don't think she even has like a conversation. Oh, she has a conversation, I think, one episode, and then that's it. She's just kind of an entity that's going around. The bloodless mother or something like that. All right, so which is, again, it's one of those things you're like, well, this is bullshit. This is just magic. So we end up discovering that the bloodless mother is a demon that wasn't captured by witchers a long time ago, and because Ciri destroyed an obelisk, she was able to kind of release herself in a way and contact other people, and basically she feeds off of pain. So she gave 3 characters like, all right, this is what you can do to gain happiness, and then basically took the happiness from them in order to cause them like massive amounts of pain or whatever. It's really complicated, and it's really silly and annoying, because again, you just wait, so this is a being that's so powerful that can actually affect other extremely powerful wizards, but it's kind of bullshit because this being is supposed to be captured, and I don't understand why it has so much fucking influence. How is it that it's sucking up energy from so far away? It's lol, chaos, which is bullshit. Honestly, it's just bullshit, and it hurt my head. It was complicated enough to follow already, just with the names of the characters. So it's like, wait, why didn't they just focus on, the simple stuff, which is following the Witcher, killing monsters, and in his journey to killing monsters, he interacts with people who are like, holy shit, this is part of a bigger scheme. This is part of like a bigger something, and slowly doing that. Here it was just way too much time given to other characters that we do not give a fuck about. Like, for example, again, Fringilla's story. she returns. She goes to Sintra, who you guys remember. Sintra's the city that it's the city where Ciri was a princess and got taken over by Nilfgaardians. And so she goes there and she starts taking in elf refugees. The elf refugees are like, cool, we hate the humans of the north, so we will be a part of your army. Then this chick gets pregnant and she has a baby, and all the first true born elf baby born in generations, and everybody's like, oh well, this gives us hope to make more babies, so we're gonna not become warriors, we're gonna become basically breeders. And the humans are like, fuck you, you fucking traitors, you lied to us, whatever. Point is, a lot of time is taken for the drama between these two in Sintra and all that stuff, and you're like, I don't care. This is stupid. You know what? We could have actually just found out about this, in a letter or something. I would much rather have been following Geralt monster hunting, or even Ciri training her, her first monster hunt and stuff like that, or how, the consequences of other, or, even people hunting them down and having to escape one way or the other. That was actually interesting stuff. Here, it's slow, it's boring, it's characters that most of them you can't tell their names. Like, again, Fillivander, I guarantee you that most people forgot about Fillivander. This guy, I forget his name, Cahir. This guy was there's a lot of time spent on him. So for those of you who don't remember, Cahir was the big bad of the previous season. He tried to, at the end of the season, he tried to capture Ciri, and then Ciri unleashed her power and destroyed the obelisk, and he was like, holy fuck. And so he got captured by the Brotherhood. The Brotherhood, again, is the wizards. And because of Yennefer, she helps him escape, because Yennefer is hoping that he will help her enter Sintra. It's okay. Why am I following this guy? Why? Honestly, why? I mean, I get it. You need to set up the world. It's basically, it's a whole lot of setup. The season is a whole lot of setup. And it's boring. Most of it, it's not boring. It's still well made. It's well acted. But you're like, how about if we go into the fun story? The adventure. It's an adventure video game. The video game, it's an adventure. You're using a character and you're going through adventures and stuff like that. Here, Geralt doesn't have so much. No, he kind of just reacts to stuff. Yennefer just is desperately trying to find her powers back, which I guess it's okay. It's fun. Anyway, the point is, it's most of the season, it's fine. Like I said, it's fine. It's enjoyable. It has its moments. Episode 1 to me was the highlight of the season, because the monster that they introduced there is fantastic. The acting from the beast there is fantastic. Again, I don't know his name, but it's really, and it's pretty much all downhill from there, because there's one really good storyline, and the other one is just kind of really confusing and boring, and it's filled with bullshit because of chaos magic, and it's just a big fucking mess. And sometimes when you try to explain things a bit too much, it gets weirder. Like, for example, the character of Dijkstra, I don't have an image for him, and he just comes out of nowhere, and it's super important. You're not exactly clear who he actually is or what the conflict between the kings are. Again, it's just a political clusterfuck that has to do with the wizards, and you're like, I don't care. I just don't care. I would rather not know any of this that's going on in the background, and just randomly have wizards showing up trying to take Ciri, and Geralt trying to figure it out, and then all of a sudden, getting one of the wizards to be like, you're gonna fucking tell me why is everybody after Ciri, or him figuring out other ways. So, which is kind of what you do in the video game. Because you're just following Geralt around, and Geralt is learning stuff at the same time that you are. So, yeah, like I said, it clearly they're setting up for something, and the thing that they're setting up is all at the end. So at the end, the season, by the way, again, spoiler alert, I already know about spoilers, I don't give a fuck. It ends up with Ciri kind of like unleashing a bit of her powers, taking them all the way to another dimension where they call a sphere, and then realizing that the Wild Hunt is after Ciri. Now, what is the Wild Hunt is basically this world's equivalent of the Nazgul from the Lord of the Rings. Basically, I think it's the easiest way to describe it. Like the race of Moroth, I think that's what they're called here. Anyway, the point is basically, imagine the Nazgul being after Ciri, and it's just basically, dudes and horses, and instead of having with the white cloaks, their armors are free. You can see them. And so you learn that the Wild Hunt is after Ciri. You learn that the kings want to kill Ciri. You learn that another king wants to marry Ciri to have the legal claim to her kingdom. You know, the Nilfgaardians want Ciri. Everybody wants Ciri. There's also like the fire guy who we're not exactly sure who he works for. He wants Ciri. Everybody wants Ciri. That's the point. And okay, fine, whatever. It's basically you're following a whole bunch of different characters coming to the same conclusion. Oh, Ciri's alive. Oh, I want Ciri, either dead or to marry her or whatever. Which is, again, like, what's the point? We're watching the same thing over and over, just differently. We're just seeing a whole bunch of different people figure out the same fucking thing. It's boring. We should have just even the elves figure out that Ciri's there, and they're like, oh yeah, she has elder blood. Okay, well we need her for this. The Witchers want her for something else in order to make more Witchers, and you're just sitting there being like, can we just have like a fun adventure hunting monsters? Can we? That's kind of the point of the game. And can we deal with like really dark stories that look like it's gonna go one way, or it's gonna be really simple? It turns out to be something actually deep and heavy and stuff like that. So overall, it's not a bad season. It was okay. It was just nothing compared to season 1. Season 1, phenomenal, fantastic. The pacing, they handled the complicated story in a creative way. It was a little confusing for people because, again, 3 different timelines, and it takes you a minute to figure that out. But once you do, the season's fantastic. The acting is fantastic. The effects are fantastic. The money, you can clearly see it on screen. Personally, I did not enjoy it as much. I still enjoyed it. I mean, I watched the whole season in 2 sittings, basically. So it was still enjoyable, just not as good as the first one. Kind of disappointing. However, I am hopeful that season 3 will be better, because they had to have gotten all the setup out of the way, right? They have to. They basically I don't know, they walked around with their dicks in their hands for a whole season, and now everything has to be set up for the big season 3, because now everybody and their mother knows about Ciri. Everybody knows about Ciri. Everybody has a plan for Ciri, and Geralt knows that everybody's chasing after Ciri, and now the 3 main characters are together. So you got Yennefer training her in magic, you have Geralt training her in fighting and protecting her. Both of them are protecting her. And, oh, by the way, Yennefer got her powers back. So it should be that next season is just balls to the walls crazy. So if season 3 is as good as I hope it'll be, then season 2 was worth it. It was the setup, fine. It was just, you had to suffer through it. They were world building. They needed to develop other characters, other storylines in order for you to understand what was going to happen next. Fine. But they got to do something with it. Right now, I'm in a point where I'm not happy with what I saw, because they didn't really do much with anything, and the things that they showed us was just kind of like going around in circles, just a different the same story for different characters, of all of them figuring out the same thing. So moving forward, this is pretty simple. More Geralt, Ciri, Yennefer monster hunting. That's it. More of that. Just keep more of them, being hunted down by powerful beings. That'll be fun. With them running away from the wild hunt, that'll be fun. Running away from kings, from monsters, from all that'll be fun. So just focus on that. In fact, you know what? Don't even show the other characters. Who gives a fuck about them? So unless they're interacting with the main characters, who gives a fuck about them? Who gives the fuck about the internal dramas of fucking wizards that have basically unlimited power because of lol chaos? So there you go. As always, I think that's a good place to stop. Yeah, that's fair. I don't want to get into more examples. Like I already spoiled enough, but I don't want to get into more stuff. So that's it. As always, any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at Super Dario World on YouTube and on Twitch. Like I said, live streaming. Usually I do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 10 a.m. I should be back on Monday to my regular live stream if you want to join me there. This one was pre-recorded. Like, subscribe, follow. I really appreciate that. It really helps me out. Follow me on Instagram at DarioSDW and at Super Dario World. As always, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again next time.